Welcome back to another episode of the Fatboyz Dynasty podcast presented by Fantasy Holics. Bo and Brant coming at you. We're going to get back into our rankings this week. We're going to talk about our top 24 running backs for Dynasty startup drafts. We're going to start at the top, work our way down. Next week, we're going to run over some top 36 wideouts and just keep going down our rankings.
There is some big news in the football world today. Rob Gronkowski is hanging up the cleats. He come out and announced his retirement today. That means Tom Brady's going to have to find a new person that he's in love with in the red zone. I expect that to be Mike Evans. But Rob Gronkowski is no longer coming back. Insert Cameron Brate into your rankings at tight end there.
Gross. I mean, he is going to be the number one tight end there in Tampa Bay.
He is going to be the number one tight end.
And Godwin's going to be missing some time, so definitely Cameron Brate does have his opportunity to shine.
Does this make Mike Evans a top 5 wide receiver?
No.
Godwin missing time and Gronk being gone.
I think with the way Brady spreads the ball out, I don't see it being top 5. I maybe could consider him to be a top 10 wideout in a redraft.
Don't forget, Tom Brady did substantiate the greatest fantasy season ever from a wide receiver in Randy Moss.
Yeah, I just don't think the way he spreads the ball out is at his older age. I just don't think he'd be top 5. He definitely would probably crawl into my top 10 of redraft rankings. Possibly in Dynasty. I haven't dug that deep in my wideouts yet. I will starting tomorrow.
Well, nonetheless, let's get off of the Buccaneers and let's get into these running back rankings. I imagine we're very, very similar in the top half of this, and then there'll be some discrepancies. But let's just get the number one obvious one out of the way with. We both have Jonathan Taylor, I assume.
Jonathan Taylor. I mean, there's not a whole lot to say that hasn't been said already. He's 23 years old. He's got 2 years left on his contract, plus his contract year option. Finished as the RB1 last year. He gets an upgrade in his quarterback, and he's got a top offensive line. The only thing barking there is Nyheim Hines catching a few passes here and there, but even with that last year, it didn't spill any issues for Jonathan Taylor. He definitely is, in my mind, almost head and shoulders above the rest. There's another one just, that I have at number 2 that is.
Well, one last thing I want to say about Jonathan Taylor, too, is he's got a top half. I won't say necessarily top 10, but a top half defense. So it makes it a little easier to live in the run game offensively. And Matt Ryan's going to be a guy that plays ball control offense, not going to be turning over the ball. Jonathan Taylor should be right there again at the end of the year.
Absolutely. I think we're pretty even Steven here at the number 2 spot with Najee Harris. 24 years old, 3 years left on his contract. He finished as the RB3 in PPR as a rookie, and he gets an upgrade at quarterback. So maybe a little less in the dump off passes, but I still Najee Harris, his age, his workload, the offensive systems he's in. He's got to be your number 2 ranked.
Yeah, again, Najee is also my number 2, but again, another good defense here in Pittsburgh that, again, lets you live in the run game offensively. Typically, it seems that when you have a top-end running back with a lot of opportunities, it's because they don't have to throw the ball 1,000 times to keep up and score, like with what you'd see in from like an Atlanta or Houston Texans or something of that nature. Absolutely. So, yeah, Najee Harris, again, is my number 2 as well.
Absolutely. My number 3 is DeAndre Swift, 23 years old, 2 years left in his contract, plus his contract year. He finished as the RB15, and he only played in 13 games last year. Now, he has only played in 13 games both seasons that he's been in the league. So he does have a little injury history, but the way that Detroit team is building their team up, they're building their lineup, they're building, in my mind, they're building almost a winning program there. So I have high hopes for DeAndre Swift. I absolutely love him coming out this year. And once again, their defense is taking a step forward. So I'm anxious to see this Lions team this year.
Yeah, I went back and forth with DeAndre Swift for quite a while. I had him at 3 for a while. And then today, finalizing my rankings prior to the start of the cast, I ended up moving him down a few spots, and I'll talk about my reason for that in a minute. But the one big reason I'll say now is that, again, what do the top two guys have that substantiates a big difference between them and DeAndre Swift? Is a top-end defense. The Lions' defense is not going to be top-end this year. Should be better than it was last year, but it's not going to be top-end. We'll get into that in a minute. My number 3 is Javonte Williams. Anytime an offense goes from Drew Lock to the likes of Russell Wilson, that backfield is naturally going to benefit, reap the rewards of that. And I think Javonte Williams, again, will probably be a running back by committee to start the season. But towards the end of the season, I'm betting you're looking at a 70 to 30% split, or maybe even a 75-25% split. Melvin Gordon's up there in age at this point. He's still valuable, I understand. But Javonte Williams, 22 years of age, he showed flashes last year, and I just look for him to take that next step big time this year and not look back afterwards.
Okay, I have Williams a little further down, and I'll talk about my reasoning why here whenever I get to him in my rankings. Who you got at your number 4 spot?
At number 4, I actually have Joe Mixon. One of the biggest beneficiaries of the offseason. That offensive line should be the best offensive line that he's played with. Again, Cincinnati's defense is one of the more up-and-coming defenses. They showed flashes last year. Again, very potent offense. The passing game is elite, so it's going to give Joe Mixon some wide-open lanes. Now, Joe Mixon, to finish as a top 5 back this year, is going to need to stay healthy, obviously. That's the big thing here. But at 25 years of age, he's still got several years left in the tank. And if I was doing a dynasty startup and I had the 5th, 6th pick, obviously this might in between Javonte Williams and Joe Mixon might be where I'd be looking at Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson in a startup ranking. But if I've got that 6th or 7th pick and I'm looking at running back, it's Joe Mixon for me.
Okay, Mixon I actually have outside of my top 10. So I'm going to go ahead and hit my reasoning why, just because I do have such a gap. The youth around him in the wide receivers with Chase and Higgins, both of those guys are going to eventually need paid. Mixon just got paid, but it only has he actually has 2 years left plus a free opt-out after 2 years. But Mixon, hey, they got Evans. They're a high-powered passing offense. I think he gets plenty of work in the rushing game, but I just don't see how his receptions can stay up throughout the next few years with like I said, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and then you got Joe Burrow up there too, who's going to obviously need paid, and then you got their defense is another thing that really makes me shaky. It showed out really good last year, but can they keep it up? Mixon, I do have a little bit lower than that.
Last year, just for instance, Mixon finished as the running back 4 in PPR, and that was with the same weapons that he's got going into this year, with the exception of they swapped out C.J. Uzomah for Hayden Hurst. The offensive line got a little bit better. They should be winning games pretty handily at decent points through the season, and rather than his rushing total going down, I think he gets the 300 attempts this year. Again, he's got to stay healthy. Last year he played 16 games. In 2020 he missed 10 games, so that hurt. And then he's only missed 4 other games in his career. So injury concerns aren't really a huge issue for me. And last year he only had 48 targets. That's not really top end in PPR for a running back anyway. So losing a few targets, I don't expect it to hurt him a whole lot.
He also had 13 touchdowns.
He did have 13 touchdowns. But I wouldn't be shocked to see that go up. The offense should be a step better than it was last year even. So at number 5, I actually have did you say your number 4? I'm sorry if you didn't.
I did not. Number 4, I got CMC. This guy, he's got an option this year after this season. He's got 3 more on his contract. He still averaged 21.7 points per game in that Carolina offense on the games he was healthy. Yes, I understand he's been hurt the last 2 years, but when he's on the field, he's averaging, 21.7. So, taking instant last year, Austin Eckler, who finished number 2, averaged 21.5 or 21.5 points per game. So he's right there in the RB1, RB2 category when he's on there. As long as CMC's on the field, he's a threat to break out for 30-plus points every week. CMC's my number 4 guy. He's just one of those guys that if I'm looking later in the draft, or not later in the draft, later in the first round of a Dynasty startup, CMC's a guy that I would absolutely have no problem with hanging my hat as my RB1 there. Having him that high is... It's just the fact that every time he laces up his cleats and heads out to that field, he's putting up 20-plus points a game. And that 21.7 includes a game where he played less than 30% of the snaps.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not completely off Christian McCaffrey. I have him just outside of my top 5 at 6. But, again, the injury concerns, he's not getting any younger. Carolina's offense looks like it could be in turmoil again this year under center. Defense should be, I mean, I would think right there. I mean, they've got some great young players on defense.
They've always been young, and they're up and coming. And that was I'm glad you said that, the offense being in turmoil. That was another thing I did write down, and I wanted to say he's always the focal point of that offense, too, regardless if it's a pass game or a run game. It's get that ball in CMC's hands. So
well, we really haven't got to see what he looks like as a full season with Matt Rule. Under Ron Rivera, he very much was. But, again, we're talking age 26 now. In Dynasty formats, he's a year and a half away from where you want to start shopping him. But again, I'm not off of him enough to have him outside of my top 10. He's at number 6 for me. At number 5, I do have the aforementioned DeAndre Swift. Again, one of the big reasons I have him here is that he did miss 7 games. That the defense is not going to be top half in the league, not going to be anywhere near elite, and the offense, they added weapons this offseason. They added DJ Chark. They added Jamison Williams. And to me, I think what you saw last year was the product of having Tyrell Williams as your wide receiver 1 to start the season in Detroit. You had TJ Hawkinson banged up a bit last year. You had Amon-Ra St. Brown not make his emergence till the end of the season. I think DeAndre Swift benefited from that tremendously. I think this year, once Jamison Williams comes back and gets game speed and all that, I think you'll start to see Detroit's future identity take place. And it could be enough that maybe DeAndre Swift does slide into that top 3. It also could be enough that he slides out of that top 10. That's why I felt like number 5 was the best spot to have him here, because I do think we're prematurely hyping him a little bit, but at the same time, if he remains the guy in Detroit, then he's had 17 total touchdowns through 26 games. So I mean, he's putting up production. It's there. 4 of those were in the air, and 13 of them were on the ground in 2 seasons. So he's putting up the numbers, but I just worry about this season with the defense and adding all the pieces that he may get phased out a little bit. He'll still be the guy in the backfield, but I don't think he's going to get 80 to 70 or 80 receptions. I think 70 being the high end of what he sees this year.
Okay. So I've already talked about Swift, so I'm not going to beat a dead horse here and continue to talk about him. My number 5 is Alvin Kamara. He's probably the best pass-catching back in the NFL. And there's really no real threats to his carries or his pass catching there. Jameis Winston's coming back to lead that offense. Their defense is one of the top tier defenses. They did lose a few pieces to that defense, but Alvin Kamara, as much as it pains me to say, but we won't talk about why it pains me a little bit. Alvin Kamara is just a guy that always seems to find himself there as a top 5 running back every year. So, yeah, he's 26 years old. He still has 3 years left on his contract. So, yeah, I know he's 2 years away from, that, do I start to move him or not? Well, when you start to move him, he's only going to have 1 year left. So that's a great time you get you should get this year as a top 5, top 7 running back, and probably another year of a RB1, and then easily can ship him for a lot of additional pieces too. So Alvin Kamara is just a guy that I really like right here, and I feel like 5 is a very safe place for him.
Okay, who do you got at 6?
Number 6, I got Derrick Henry. I understand he's 28 years old. Excuse me. He's 28 years old. He's got 2 years left on his contract. Until he leaves Tennessee, or until they show that they want to pass the ball, he's in a run-first offense. This man sees 20 to 30 carries a game, regardless. I know he looked a little banged up when he came back from that foot injury, but they lost their best wide receiver on the team. The guy that they drafted to replace him, it hasn't really shown a whole lot in camps and rookie camps. So just Derrick Henry being at number 6, I understand, like I said, the 28-year-old is what scares me away, and he was one of those guys that I was fluctuating in my rankings, and I just felt like 6 is a very safe place for him because he's a guy that, like I said, 20 to 30 carries a game. Odds are he's going to hang up RB1 numbers week in and week out.
Yeah, absolutely. At 6, I have Christian McCaffrey. Again, not going to spend a whole lot of time on that. I kind of said why I had him, where I had him. At 7, I've got Breece Hall. And the reason I have Breece Hall at 7 is quite simple. One, he's the best back in this year's rookie class. Okay, so by far and away, he's in a tier all by himself. Then Kenneth Walker's in a tier by himself, and then the rest. Okay, but you're getting Breece Hall first right out the door, 21 years of age, and 4 years left on his contract. Okay. Granted, it's the Jets offense. I know how everybody feels about that, but Zach Wilson's starting to come on late last year. They added more pieces with Garrett Wilson. C.J. Uzma did go there from Cincinnati.
And Conklin.
And Tyler Conklin's there from, Minnesota?
Yes.
And then they added Jeremy Ruckert, the tight end from Ohio State. Still have Elijah Moore. Still got Corey Davis, Braxton Berrios. That offense should take a step in the further right direction. And I just like Breece Hall because, yes, Michael Carter's still there, and Michael Carter should still have a role, but I still think that, again, this is a 65-35 or 60-40 worse split for Breece Hall. And I think if you can get a guy that you're going to have control over for at least 4 years, knowing what his situation is going to be, there's a lot of value in that.
All right, and that was your number 7. My number 7 is Dalvin Cook, 26 years old. I will get into the Breece Hall. I have him just outside my top 10 at 11, but I'll get into that when we hit that a little bit more. Right now I got Dalvin Cook at my number 7. He's 26. He has 3 years left on his contract. He's another one that's a top pass catching back. He averages 20 points per game when he's healthy and on the field, which was good enough for, I believe he actually is down to number 16 last year, but he only played in 13 games. Another guy that, did miss some time. He has had the injury concern. But seeing some of the reports coming out of that camp really excites me for Dalvin Cook this year. Lining up with the wide receivers and bunch formations, getting screen routes, getting used more in that passing game. I know he always has. He had, 49 targets last year. So, he gets targeted. Obviously that's not your top tier guys. Taylor saw 51. So, I guess it is a top tier. But Eckler and Najee saw 94. So that's a big difference there.
Sure.
But, Dalvin Cook getting used all over the field for Minnesota. Adam Thielen's getting older. I understand Madison's sitting there knocking on his door. He does have an opt-out next year, which I believe, I don't have it pulled up, but I believe it was $9 million they would have in dead cap. So that is a possibility with Dalvin Cook, and that's something that you have to be willing to take on that risk. But Dalvin Cook, until like I said, whenever he steps on the field, it averages 20 points per game. So until that digression comes from him, like I said, the injury history is why I've got him a little lower than I do. But Dalvin Cook's just a guy that when he does get on the field, he hangs up fantasy points for you. So we're on to number 8.
We're on to number 8.
Number 8, I got Javonte Williams there in Denver. Really, the only reason I have him so much lower than you, it's really not. It's only 5 spots, but he's young, which is 22 years old, which is an up for him. Still sharing that backfield with Melvin Gordon. They brought him back. They brought Melvin Gordon back, I believe, on a 1-year deal. Russell Wilson's not been known to dump off to running backs, but he's never really had a running back that could catch like Williams can. So really, the reason I have him there at 8 is until I see Russell using the running back a little more in the passing game, I'm just not completely safe with keeping him in the top 5. Easily could break into the top 5, no problem. 8's just a safe place where I feel like taking him right now. Melvin Gordon coming back is is now reunited with his college quarterback in Russell Wilson too. So that's another thing to look out for this year. But yeah, really the only thing that holds him back for me is as a Seahawks fan, never really seeing Russell dump off to the running back. Until I see that, I just don't believe it.
Yeah, when you talk about these top end running backs, really realistically, with the exception of maybe Joe Mixon, Najee Harris, really that's about it for me in my top 10. There's all feasible backups in all these spots. I mean, Dalvin Cook is the guy I have at 8, okay? And the reason I have Dalvin Cook outside of my top 5 is just because of Alexander Madison. Madison looked more than capable anytime he has to step up and fill those shoes for Dalvin Cook. But again, the top end guys are top end for a reason, and their backups are handcuffs for a reason. So Melvin Gordon would scare me a little bit more if he was going into his age 26 season rather than, I believe, 28. I'd have to double check that. But it just doesn't scare me a whole lot. Again, Dalvin Cook, you kind of spoke on all the things that I was really going to hit on there. Again, when he's on the field, he produces. But age 26, they do have that buyout this year. And, they could move into a rebuild next year. If they decide to let go of Kirk Cousins and cut Dalvin Cook, you're getting rid of a lot of age at important positions. And you could start a rebuild. So that worries me a little bit. And then at number 9, I have Alvin Kamara, a guy you already talked about. I believe you had Alvin Kamara at 5.
Correct.
The reason I have Alvin Kamara at 9 instead of 5 is because Kamara is probably going to have some kind of a suspension from his fight in Las Vegas after the Pro Bowl. And so if I'm sitting in a Dynasty startup draft and I'm drafting these guys, I don't necessarily want Alvin Kamara to be my running back 1 off the board, not knowing. Again, it's the same uncertainty we're looking at with Deshaun Watson. We still don't know. He may not miss a single game. He may miss 5. He may miss 2. We don't know. But going off of kind of past transgressions from the NFL when it comes to handing down suspension time, I think you're missing anywhere from 2 to 6 games of Alvin Kamara this year. And so for that reason, I have him down at 9.
Okay. My number 9 is Austin Eckler, another guy. He's got 2 years left on his contract. He's 27 years old, which is a little scary for a RB1 being drafted. But Austin Eckler is a guy that he catches balls, and we've seen it for 2 straight years with Herbert now. He's one of the focal points of the offense. The only reason that I have him down at 9 and not anywhere higher is I do believe Isaiah Spiller spills some of that workload in the red zone from him. A rookie they drafted, I believe, in the 3rd or 4th round. I would have to double check that. I don't have that in front of me, but he's just a guy that Spiller I was extremely high on going into this draft. He was my number 3 ranked running back in this draft. But Eckler's a guy that I just feel comfortable with the workload and the passing attack that he gets. So he's just a guy that I feel comfortable being able to start as a low-tier RB1 in most startup drafts.
Yeah, so speaking of Eckler, because I have him coming up here as well, and I'll just get what I've got to say about him out of the way. I was looking up the stats on my phone real quick. Melvin Gordon's 29 years of age, not 28.
I wasn't sure if it was 20
the
or
last
29.
year that he was in Los Angeles with Austin Eckler, when Eckler finishes the RB4 in PPR formats, Melvin Gordon outtouched him almost 2-1 and had 8 rushing touchdowns to Austin Eckler's 3. So if Isaiah Spiller comes in and spills a little bit of that goal line work, it doesn't intimidate me whatsoever.
Who was the wide receivers and what was the target share on those two?
Well, Keenan Allen was in town.
Keenan Allen was the only one in town there.
Well, Mike Williams, I'm sure, was in town back then too, probably just not healthy.
Yeah, but
you had a healthy
Phillip Rivers dump off king there for Austin Eckler. So I mean, Herbert airs that ball out. So
that year he had 14 more targets than he did last year.
Oh, okay.
So Herbert does dump off apparently.
Apparently he does dump off a lot more than I thought.
Yes.
You're on number 9.
Okay, number 9 I already did number 9. Out was Alvin Kamara. Number 10 for me is Austin Eckler. Again, we just both spoke on Austin Eckler. For me, number 11 for me is Nick Chubb, 26 years of age. Should be the last year Kareem Hunt's in town. And if Jacoby Brissett's the starting quarterback because Baker Mayfield refuses to play for him and Deshaun Watson's not allowed to play for him, they should lean on that run massively. I could see a world where Nick Chubb's a top 3 running back this year.
Absolutely. I'm going to run through my 10, 11, and 12. Oh, you did skip me for 10. I know you did.
You skipped yourself for 10.
Oh, whatever. It's your fault, not mine.
It's because you're fat.
Well, you're fat too.
Yes, I am.
All right. Well, I got Travis Etienne at 10. This guy, he's reuniting with his college quarterback. He's 23 years old. He should see a Debo-type role with being a gadget guy, getting the catches, the carries. He's explosive when he gets some catches out of the backfield. This guy, I just feel, has the whole all the opportunity in the world to explode into being an RB1. And I absolutely believe in that Jacksonville offense that he will be you're missing James Robinson till he tore it in week 16.
Reports are that he's going to be ready for camp this year.
We'll see about that one. I
don't
don't see them rushing him back with. But I just feel like Etienne's going to take over that backfield, and it's going to be at Travis Etienne time. So I absolutely believe in that Jacksonville rushing attack with Travis Etienne. My number 11 is Breece Hall. It's the Jets. That's the only reason he's outside my top 10. I don't trust the Jets. We're not sure how that offense is going to look with an actual dominant or possible dominant running back. He's a rookie. He's 21. There's no real knock on him besides that he's in the Jets system. Number 12, we've already talked about a little bit, is Joe Mixon. You had him at number 4. I have him at number 25. I talked about it. It's because of the extra miles.
Number 12.
He's age 25. I have him at number 12. I am so glad you corrected me on that because I look dumb as stuff right now. But Joe Mixon is just the mouths to feed. I just don't know exactly if he's going to get the same workload he did last year. I don't see 292 carries in that offense because of his lingering injuries. I don't want to say injury history because, like you knocked on, he only missed time 2 years ago, and then other than that, it's been four games. But he's always had a hamstring linger or a calf. So I feel like maybe they'll bring that workload down a little bit. Number 13, I got Saquon Barkley. You already hit 12, did you not?
No, I did not.
I apologize. Go ahead.
The heat really fried your brain again today.
Well, leave me out of it.
At number 12, I actually have Derrick Henry, 28 years of age. That's disgusting. Yes, I know Derrick Henry has been an absolute value the last several years in fantasy, and he's going to be for a couple more years. But again, same thing with what I said earlier. I don't want to put my first running back off the board. In a 12-man league, he still would be. But I don't want my first running back off the board to be a guy that's 28 years of age and maybe has one really strongly productive season left in the tank, and then the decline's going to start. I'd rather let somebody else take that headache and have to worry about drafting the replacement. When you get older running backs, it makes your need running back in drafts to come, and rookie drafts or for trades. I'd rather have more roster fluidity elsewhere. So Derrick Henry, because he's the age of 28, I'm going to have him down here. At 13, I've got Saquon Barkley. He's only 25 years of age. That offensive line should be the best Saquon Barkley's ever ran behind. Again, the reason he's still so low, huge injury concern, and the massive concern that is Daniel Jones.
Absolutely. I've got Barkley at the same spot right there at number 13. Same reason you said. He's 25. He's a guy that I would absolutely love to have as my RB2 spinning around in that second round. Now, the issue with me, he does only have 1 year left there in New York. Next year is technically his last year left on contract. After that, in 2023, he's an unrestricted free agent. So I don't know if they're willing to pay him with his injury history, anything else. But this is a guy that he's talking about how he's feeling better than he ever has before. He's feeling like he did in his rookie year. So this is a guy that I absolutely love to be able to hit on that spin, get as my RB2 there in a 12-man league. Daniel Jones is the biggest question mark and that offense. But, yeah, like you hit the nail on the head with the best offensive line he's probably played behind.
I think excuse me. I think you can make the same argument for Saquon Barkley that you do with Christian McCaffrey, that when he's on the field, the offense is going to be better, right? Because it makes the opposing defenses pay attention to what he's doing rather than what Daniel Jones isn't doing. I think Saquon Barkley could have a huge bounce back this year, especially in a potential contract year.
Absolutely. So at number 14, I have Aaron Jones. He's 27 years old there in Green Bay. He's the only, right now, he's really the only target on Green Bay that has Aaron Rodgers' trust right now. Besides Randall Cobb.
Robert Tonyan? Alan Lazard? They both.
I don't think they have the trust because they're obviously not doing a whole lot.
They're both getting high praise from him in the offseason, so I would argue to say otherwise.
But Aaron Jones, he finishes RB11, sharing the backfield with A.J. Dillon. He averaged 15 points per game last year with Devontae Adams. The targets, in my mind, are going to increase with him. He's got an opt-out year next year, which I don't know if they're going to do with the huge contract they just re-signed Rodgers to. I don't know if they're going to get rid of both his best weapons. And then after that, he's got 2 more years left, and he'll be out at age 30, or has the possibility to be out at age 30. He's a guy he's another guy I feel like he's going to see plenty of targets. He gets the ball in the red zone. He gets the ball between the 20s. I understand he's going 50-50 or 60-40 with A.J. Dillon. And, with only 4 touchdowns last year, with only 4 touchdowns on the ground last year and 6 through the air, so 10 total, he was still RB11. This is a guy that I absolutely would love to have as my RB2. The 27 is his biggest knock. Other than that, I feel like I would have him, honestly, up a little higher than that if he wasn't 27 years old.
So there's only 4 carries difference last year between A.J.
So 50-50.
A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones. But the difference is that Aaron Jones did have 31 more targets than C.J. Dillon. But I think we're going to have to – or A.J. Dillon, I think we're going to have to agree to disagree on Aaron Jones's or Aaron Rodgers not having any trust for any of his weapons. So you got through 14. At 14 is Travis Etienne for me. Again, I still think James Robinson's going to have some kind of a role there this year. He's under contract. He's been sufficient in the past. I expect to see Travis Etienne in a very similar role to Deebo Samuel, but more carries, less receptions. And I still think Travis Etienne's the guy to own in that backfield, but I'm just not quite ready to put him into the top 10 yet, seeing as we've never seen him take a snap in the NFL. It does help that he's going into play with his quarterback from college. That trust will already be there. He won't have to earn it, but still, nonetheless, I want to see him take some snaps in the NFL before I'm willing to move him up any higher. At 15, I've got Zeke Elliott, and this is one that I really struggled with, Brant, because the first time I put my rankings down, I tried like hell to leave this guy outside of my top 24 because I just don't like him. I don't like Zeke Elliott. I don't.
We weren't the only one struggling.
But here he is at 15. The dude, when he has down years, is still a top 10 running back in PPR. Granted, he's 26 years of age, contract year, and Tony Pollard's been knocking at the door. But Tony Pollard's not young either. Tony Pollard's not the answer after Zeke. He's just not. And I think a lot of the reason Tony Pollard is so valuable is because of Zeke. And so, for me, if I'm, if this is, again, a dynasty startup, and I think we're looking to do a mock at some point, I'm still thinking even it's the running back 15 rankings, you're going to see him drafted in the 3rd round because you'll see a wave of wide receivers go. And if you're telling me I'm getting a guy like Zeke in the 3rd or 4th round, I'm absolutely over the moon for it.
Absolutely. I got Zeke just a little bit lower, not much lower than that. And really the only knock is Tony Pollard sitting there knocking on his back door just like A.J. Dillon is with Aaron Jones. My number 15, I got J.K. Dobbins. He's 23 years old. Yes, he is coming off an ACL tear. So is his back.
I had a moment of immaturity. I couldn't contain my laughter when he said knocking on the back door. We'll move on.
All right, number 15.
Get it out there, we'll move on.
J.K. Dobbins, 23 years old. He's the number 1 running back in a run-first offense that focuses on he's the number 1 running back, but there's a guy that runs probably a little more than him that's got a different position listing. Different position. I think it's a quarterback / running back. But either way, J.K. Dobbins in that read option offense that they run, I absolutely love him. Yes, he is coming off an ACL tear, but so is Gus Edwards, the other guy. Behind him on the depth chart, I hope I put that in better terms for you.
Yes.
So J.K. Dobbins is just a guy that I loved him coming out of the draft. I had him ranked probably 1 or 2 in coming out of that draft, and I just think this guy, the sky's the limit for him there in that offense. The issue is, it seems like this seems to always be the issue when we talk about Baltimore Ravens, is this guy named Lamar Jackson.
Lamar Jackson. He's great for fantasy himself, kills everybody else except for Mark Andrews. You said J.K. Dobbins was your number 16?
15.
15.
Excuse me. You're on 15.
I already did my 15.
Oh, stop it. Your immaturity ruined me.
I did have some. I suffered from some giggles there, but
all right. Number 16, I got Kenneth Walker. This is a run-first offense in Seattle. Pete came out on record. He sang it. He's written it down. He's done everything and anything.
He doesn't
we want
know where
to.
he's at, though.
Yeah, he is old, but they want to run the ball. Penny's on a 1-year deal. Carson's probably never coming back. That has come out. They've shown the hardware in his neck. Carson is almost obsolete at this moment. As a Seahawks fan, I absolutely would love for this man to come back. But Kenneth Walker, the only thing standing in his way is a guy that it hasn't played, I don't believe, more than 10 games in a season. Kenneth Walker's a guy that in a run-first offense, 21 years old on a rookie contract. He's absolutely a guy that I have zero regrets as grabbing as my RB2, which I proved in our Dynasty startup. Once again, the guy that I have ranked right above him is the one that I wanted, but still, Kenneth Walker is a guy that I absolutely love.
Yeah, so I have Kenneth Walker at 16 as well. And, there's actually, again, big news day in an otherwise dead time of the offseason that Penny should be in line to be the number 1. Stop it. The man can't stay healthy.
Yes.
I'm willing to go on air right now and say that I will sell a kidney on the black market if Rashad Penny plays 16 games this year. I'm not saying it'll be my kidney, but I'll sell a kidney on the black market if he plays 16 games. Kenneth Walker is going to be the sole owner of this backfield sooner rather than later. And when that happens, the value is going to be immense. Again, why is that? Because it's either going to be Drew Lock or Geno Smith starting, and you can only throw up in your mouth so much.
Now, another thing with Kenneth Walker, a lot of people are knocking him for his receptions in college. He played in 2 run-first, don't dump off teams in Wake Forest and Michigan State. They do not pass to their running backs. Look at the history that they're at both those colleges. They run the ball and they throw the ball to short out routes and slants. They do not throw it to the running back. Kenneth Walker has shown that he has very serviceable hands when it comes to catching the football. I'm pretty sure he had maybe 5 drops. I don't have it in front of me, but I believe he had 5 drops total in college in his 4 years. And so that's not a knock for me until he starts dropping passes. And I'm sorry, I don't see Geno and Drew just launching the ball in a time where we've come out as where the Seahawks have come out and said we're running.
You didn't let Russell Wilson cook when he was in Seattle. Drew Lock and Geno Smith are not going to cook.
We're not going to have Chef Lock.
At 17, I have J.K. Dobbins. The reason I have him so low is, again, a lot of injury concerns. A lot of his touchdowns in his career have come in same-game performances. And, again, Lamar Jackson is in town. So until Lamar Jackson stops being a run-first quarterback, I don't necessarily know as though I want to own J.K. Dobbins. But, again, at the right price, it's not something I would hesitate at.
That is another thing we can talk about, big news. Lamar Jackson still has not signed an extension, and he's also talking about possibly holding out from playing. So maybe, just maybe, we'll get to see the Ravens with a quarterback, not a running back quarterback. But still. All right, so my number 17, I've got Nick Chubb. I know you had him at 11. I got him a little lower. This guy, I literally have question marks all over his name when I did my rankings. I didn't know what to do with him. I believe you said Kareem Hunt has 1 year left. Nick Chubb's 26, going to be 27 going into this season. The guy finished as running back 13, even with Kareem Hunt there. He's a guy that I don't hate to own, but I also don't love to own. And I understand, Deshaun Watson's probably missing this entire year. I just don't know what it's going to look like after this year. If Watson misses this year, Chubb is an outstanding value where he is being drafted, because they're not going to let Jacoby Brissett or whoever else is there, because Baker's probably not ever going to take a snap for the Browns again. But either way, they're not going to let Jacoby Brissett just air that ball out. This is a run-first team. I don't care what quarterback they have. They want to lean on Nick Chubb. This is a guy that I absolutely love at 17. Like I said, I've got question marks all around his names. I've had him up. I've had him down. I've settled on 17, and I'm still not too happy with that, even though we're talking about it today. Number 18, I've got Ezekiel Elliott. We've already talked about why. He's 26, and same as you, it hurt me so bad going up and down, ranking this guy. I just don't know where really to put him. I don't know. He finishes in the top 10 regardless of what's going on with that team, and he's just a guy that scares me. But he's proven there's no reason to scare me, but he always does. So I just have him down a little lower than most people at 18.
Okay, at 18, I've actually got Cam Akers, which is a guy that you used to be infatuated with, and the reason's real simple. With the exception of Aaron Jones, I believe Cam Akers has got the best handcuff knocking on the door, and that is Darrell Henderson, who's been valuable the last 2 years. He's shown flashes. He's shown that he can also be productive. And Cam Akers is coming off of a nasty injury. Super Bowl champion Los Angeles Rams, they're going to do everything in their power to get back there, and they're not going to let a running back ease his way back into it. They're going to want to hit the ground running, and if that's Darrell Henderson, Sean McVay is going to start Darrell Henderson. Whichever running back's the hot hand is who's going to get more touches, more attempts there, and for that reason, I've got Cam Akers at 18, but with his age, it's hard to take him outside of the top 24.
Absolutely. I've got Akers just a little bit lower. As you said, I was infatuated. I did love Cam Akers. He looked a little sluggish coming back from that injury, and that's why I think Darrell Henderson is going to really be knocking on that handcuff door. So I have him down there all the way at 23. But he's another guy that when he does if he ever gets back to where he was, I think this guy could be a top 15 running back. I'm just not comfortable with what I saw with him coming back from injury. So
at 19, I have David Montgomery, 25 years of age. David Montgomery would be a lot higher on this list for me if Chicago would have done anything to address their offense.
Anything.
Period. And the only reason he's at 19 and not still a little bit further down is he's got the best strength of schedule for running backs this year. He should have a chance to go out, put up numbers. Again, Justin Fields really kind of struggled a little bit last year. I think David Montgomery is going to come out, and they're going to give him a big workload to ease Justin Fields a little bit from running from his life because there's no offensive line there. So the volume's going to be there. David Montgomery is one of those guys that he doesn't necessarily get or burn people down the field, but he's very, very good at breaking tackles, and he does it very well in the backfield. So what better way to keep your offense moving, let your defense get a little bit of rest, than give this guy 2 carries out of 3 plays before a punt, maybe. So I just think David Montgomery is a guy that could be. I could see him climbing anywhere in between 10 and 24. Really, it just all depends on what Justin Fields does. Honestly,
absolutely. So my 19 and 20, I had a really, really hard time trying to figure out where I wanted to put these guys. And these guys were both guys that I wanted to get in here and talk about. 19, I have Elijah Mitchell, and the reason he's not higher is he's with San Francisco. We never, ever, 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 ever know what's going on with that backfield. But Mitchell showed flashes. Showed flashes last year. I mean, he finished as the running back 26 in only 12 games that he played. So, I mean, he nowhere near did he put up bad numbers, 13 points per game. He's just one of those guys that I have just right there. My 19 through 24 were really hard to rank and where I wanted to put them. And Mitchell, with being 24 years old and they're in the San Francisco backfield, and also the talks of Debo not wanting to carry the ball as much, makes me a little bit higher on Elijah Mitchell. So I really like him there at 19. My other one's Antonio Gibson. Antonio Gibson was a guy that I absolutely loved. But he hasn't. Last year just didn't do a whole lot for me. I didn't see what I wanted to see from him. I know he finished as the RB10. But I know that sounds terrible. But when you add Brian Robinson as a guy that is just a pounding between the tackles runner, Gibson just looks – the more that the more that Washington adds, it makes Gibson looks more like a third down running back. But this guy, as a third down running back, he's still going to get rushing opportunities. He's still only 24 years old in the Washington offense. So I believe that 20 is a good spot. He's still going to hang up RB2 numbers. I don't see him falling from 10 to obsolete just by adding this rookie. But I just don't know exactly how comfortable I feel with putting him inside my top 15 or above.
No, 20 is a great spot, and I'll say why, and that's because I also have him at 20, so it's perfect. But I think what I can't help, again, maybe I've just got a case of the giggles today, I don't know. But it's funny to me because last year we almost came to blows over Cam Akers and Antonio Gibson. I mean, there were several times we were ready to strangle each other when we got into our running back rankings. You know, we did some co-owned drafts last year where we'd sit and argue about Cam Akers, Antonio Gibson, and then it'd be like, okay, we just won't draft either one of them then. And then again,
made it a lot easier with Cam Akers getting
the third down running back in Washington is going to be J.D. McKissick. The first and second down backs, I think you could see split between series between Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson, and that is why I have Antonio Gibson as low as I do, is because J.D. McKissick's going to be getting the passing down back there, and if it was just J.D. McKissick getting passing down work and no Brian Robinson in town, I'd probably still have Antonio Gibson closer to my top 10. But because I think Brian Robinson does spell him, I think it'll probably be close to like a 30% workload for Brian Robinson maybe. But Ron Rivera's already come out like way early saying it's going to be a running back by committee. That worries me a little bit for Antonio Gibson because I've been, on the Antonio Gibson train for quite a while here. But I worry that he's not going to be on the field enough to produce. At 21, I have Aaron Jones because of opposite reasons of you, basically. This is one you and I may have to look into maybe a little friendly rivalry bet on a little bit later. But I have Aaron Jones at 21 because I do think Aaron Rodgers is going to have to spread the ball out a little bit this year. He's going to have to learn to find guys and not just pinpoint Devontae Adams or Aaron Jones coming out of the backfield. I think this could be the year where we see A.J. Dillon take the step and be the 55 to 45% guy there this year. And again, Aaron, when you're not on the field, it's hard to produce fantasy numbers. I think A.J. Dillon's going to take over almost exclusively goal line work for Aaron Jones. I could see Aaron Jones moving out into the slot maybe in goal line situations. But carries, I expect that to be A.J. Dillon. Again, Aaron Jones, 27 years of age. Green Bay's really actually one of the, in my opinion, teams stuck in that. How many more years do we try to contend before we have to take it back? This isn't going to be like when Brett Favre left and Aaron Rodgers stepped in. That's not Jordan Love. Okay, there's going to be some down years in Green Bay. It's just how much longer do you let Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones and all that do what they do? And I think with Devontae Adams being shipped out this year, it was a pretty good indicator for me that the end may be near. Okay, and again, Robert Tonyan's had a great season with Aaron Rodgers 2 years ago, where he had 10 or 12 touchdown catches. Alan Lazard has been getting hyped up by Aaron Rodgers this offseason, and one of my favorite rookie wideouts went to Green Bay and Christian Watson. I think that offense will be not nearly as good as it was last year, but I think they'll be fine, especially with their pass catching options. I don't see Aaron Jones getting maybe more than 5 targets difference than what he had last year. So for those reasons, it was pretty. This is one of the more comfortable rankings for me. Was having him down at 21.
Okay, all right. That was your 21st. So my 21 is a guy that you have loved, and I still don't think that you're completely off of him yet. Josh Jacobs, this guy. I mean, he finished as the RB12. He played 15 games last year. He's still only 24 years old. I know they added Zamir White. That doesn't really scare me a whole lot because they added, Kenyon Drake and a few other names last year, and that just didn't do a whole lot. He still finished as a top 12 running back. I'm checking into his contract right now. This guy, they love to feed him the football. He gets the goal line work. Nobody's going to take that from him. At 24 years old, he still has they did not pick up his fifth-year option. So he has the opportunity to go be a free agent and be a workhorse back somewhere else, or even stay in Las Vegas. So yeah, Josh Jacobs is a guy that I absolutely love going forward in a dynasty league, especially as my 21st ranked running back. A lot in ADPs I'd have to double check because I haven't looked for a couple weeks. His ADP was in a running back 3 area. I believe it was 25 or 26. So top tier.
21.
21 now. Okay. So still in the running back, or still bottom of the running back 2. So getting him late in the 3rd, 4th round is an absolute steal to get. I absolutely love Josh Jacobs going forward. Like I said, he's still only 24 years old. 22, I got Montgomery. This was a guy that I had a little issues with ranking him also because, like you said, you hit the nail on the head. It did nothing to help him. Nothing. And he's in his last year of his contract. We don't know what they're going to do more moving forward. He was only a 3rd-round draft pick. They added Khalil Herbert. Everything points to a digression for him, but it's probably not going to happen because they didn't add any pass catches or anything. So I absolutely love Monty at 22. He's still, like I said, 25 years old. He's still behind one of the worst lines in the NFL.
Yep.
So, but he always leads the NFL in broken tackles too. He's one of those guys that you may hit in the backfield, but he's still going to scramble away for 1 or 2 yards. So, I mean, he doesn't take a whole lot of negative losses, which is great coming out of this. So if this guy does leave Chicago, the sky is the limit if he goes to somewhere with an offensive line, I guess you would just have to say. So
yeah, at my 22, I actually do have Josh Jacobs, and it's wild because if you remember back to when we did our first Dynasty, I actually took him as my first pick in the 1st round at number 9, because at the time he was 22 years of age, going into his 2nd year. John Gruden had come out and said, we're going to feed him whatever. And now you got Josh McDaniel coming into town. And the Patriots could never figure out which running back they wanted to give the ball to. So how can I expect them to do it as the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders? But yeah, in my mind, the Raiders' offense should be very, very potent. They should put points on the board and hurry. And if you get, 1st and goal, I wouldn't be at all shocked to see Josh Jacobs punch it in. At 23, I've got Elijah Mitchell. Again, San Francisco, another offense that just cannot figure out who to give the ball to, whatever. Kyle Shanahan's been the guy that spread the hot hand back when he had Raheem Mostert and all those guys. And now it's down to...
I believe that goes all the way back to his Atlanta days, too, did he not?
Well, Tevin Coleman and Devontae Foreman, but they were both top 20 running backs that year. But this year it's Tyrion Davis-Price and Trey Sermon, so the pecking order should establish itself a little quicker this year. I just don't think it happens super early, and so for those reasons I've got him down at 23.
Absolutely, which 23 brings me to a little chuckle of myself because you said we had these I have Cam Akers. We had these heated debates back and forth all off season last year prior to the devastating injury to Cam Akers. And I was always on the Cam Akers train. You were on the Gibson train. Now we vice versa. Now you have Akers a little bit above Gibson. Akers, like I said, he just didn't impress me coming back from his injury. I think he came back too early. Darrell Henderson, like you said, is probably one of the best backup running backs in the NFL to own in fantasy. They are going to play from behind. Or not from behind. They're going to play from ahead. They do have a devastating defense, or an outstanding defense, and a good offensive line. But I feel like that's going to be more of a 50-50 split. And like you said, McVay's going to run the hot hand. So if Darrell Henderson comes out on one drive and has, a touchdown, and he's rushed for 35 yards, and then Akers comes out on the next one, and he can't even get a first down, Henderson's probably going to see a lot more of that game. And it could flip-flop, vice versa. It's just Cam Akers coming back from an injury. I just don't trust it anymore. My number 24, my last one for my rankings here is A.J. Dillon. I have A.J. Dillon at 24. So I understand I still have, I had Jones up there at 14. I just feel like it's going to end up being a 60-40 split. You said what was the difference in carries? 4?
Yes, 4 carries.
4 carries is the difference, so he's still going to see plenty of carries, even with Jones still there. A.J. Dillon finished as the RB23 last year with all of that, and he had 7 total touchdowns, I believe is what I'm looking at. 7 total touchdowns. So when it comes down to the goal line And you know, it's what do they call him, Quadzilla.
Yep.
So I mean, he's just a big back. He's a punishing back. So I feel very comfortable with him. It would hurt my feelings if I ended up with him and Jones as my RB1 and 2, but I wouldn't be completely upset with it.
I'd be pretty upset because next year you're only going to have one running back. But for me at 24, mine was, again, this one was another one that I kind of toss and turn. Do I leave him out? Do I put him in? If I do put him in, where does he go? So it was just easiest to put him last, and that's Leonard Fournette. You know, Ronald Jones left town, went to Kansas City, and you got Keyshawn Vaughn and Rashad White. I don't really expect either one of those two to have any kind of huge impact. The only way I expect either one of those two to have any kind of substantial role is if Leonard Fournette gets hurt. Again, Chris Godwin's gone the first 6 weeks. Rob Gronkowski is now retired. Leonard Fournette should have a huge boost the first 6 weeks of the season, and then I think you'll start to see it slow down a little bit. But there was a lot of time last year where Leonard Fournette was a top 4 back, or top 5 even at worst. And I see no reason for that not to happen again this year. I did have Aaron Jones written down as an honorable mention, or A.J. Dillon, written down as an honorable mention. I just couldn't find a way to get him in there.
As I have Leonard Fournette as 25. I mean, I literally have him sitting right there on the verge of when I started my back half rankings. Knocking on Fournette, not knocking on him. Fournette finished 4th in points per games at 18.2 this season.
18.3.
Oh, sorry, yeah, 18.3 in points per game.
Little stat correction.
Yeah.
But yeah, and again, Tampa Bay's offense should be another one that they find themselves in a good predicament offensively, and help me out here. Their defense, there we go, is another elite defense, which again helps with a run game. So next week, like Brant said, we're going to come at you with our top 36 wide receivers, and then after that, we'll probably get into maybe top 12 tight ends. Probably keep that pretty short because really outside of the top 10, it's a guessing game.
Really outside of the top 5,
really
it's a
outside
guessing
of the top
game.
5, it's a guessing game. And then we'll probably try to put out some kind of startup mock, just regular old one flex, one quarterback dynasty startup draft, just because I know we're getting into draft season here. And again, Brant, unless you have anything else you want to say about running backs, guys, don't be afraid to hit us up with anything you want to hear us talk about. Any running backs that you think we left out that shouldn't have been left out, we'd love to debate that with you guys. So don't hesitate to get a hold of us about that. And as always, stay hungry
and stay fat, my friends.